Alright. It's your boy William again. After the downfall of Xia Dynasty, a new one rose. That was the Shang Dynasty. When it comes to Shang Dynasty, what many people think of in their mind is that this was a very powerful and mature dynasty. But few people notice the beginning of Shang Dynasty was actually very unstable. When Shang Tang overthrew Xia Dynasty and established the Shang Dynasty, this was a revolution at the time. But after the revolution succeeded, the truly difficult challenges had only just begun. You must understand one thing. Shang Dynasty did not rule the world out of thin air. It faced a large number of newly conquered tribes, states that had not yet fully submitted, and a society that had experienced the tyranny of the late Xia Dynasty and was extremely exhausted. While Shang Tang was still alive, he managed to maintain a fragile balance through his personal prestige and moral image. But as soon as he died, many problems immediately surfaced. First, some remote tribes couldn't suppress their ambition when they found a young successor, Zhongding, was in power, especially the tribes from the east. They often crossed the border to take the food away and burn down the villages. Gradually, some bold leaders even let his men occupy small towns. The area of Shang Dynasty kept shrinking. This was not the only existing problem. During this period, flood kept occurring. The land could be cultivated turned into more. In agricultural society, what does it mean? It means a reduction in food and an increase in tax pressure, plus the harassment from the rebellious tribes. It also implies the dissatisfaction of the people. Under this context, Zhongding made a grave decision. Move the capital. Pay attention, this was not a glorious migration. It wasn't about expanding the territory, but forced by reality. In the history book, only one word describes this action: relocation. But behind it, that was the overall movement of a dynasty. One day, Zhongding gathered the ministers to declare his decision. But first, he wanted to hear their opinions. Most ministers just suggested to consolidate the defense and find more appropriate land. No one thought about moving. Finally, Zhongding presented his big plan. We need to go to somewhere close to the eastern border. Not only we can defend our territory, but we can also explore the new area. Suddenly, the ministers disagreed. They objected. Capital Bodu was the basic of Shang Dynasty. Moving was disrespect to the ancestors. Apparently, they were very conservative. But young Zhongding was forceful. He told all the ministers, peace is the respect ancestors want to see. We must find a new capital. Just like that, moving was on the calendar. After several months of investigation, Zhongding chose Xiaoyi as the new capital. This place is located on the plain south of the Yellow River, with flat and open terrain and fertile soil. It is precisely situated at the junction of the Central Plains and the Eastern Plain, giving both offensive and defensive advantages. And it is only 100 miles away from the settlement of the rebellious tribes. The thinking part was done. Then came the most difficult part: migration. Zhongding separated it into two parts. First, he enlisted thousands of men to build a wall as a defense. Don't underestimate it. The whole project lasted for a whole year. The wall was high and thick, totally capable of stopping the rebels. Inside the wall, the city was divided into the palace area, the living area, and the workshop area. Craftsmen were busy making bronze wares and pottery to prepare for the establishment of the new capital all day. Then, the second part was the moving itself. One day in BC 1650, the moving troops officially set out. The vanguard was the army of Shang Dynasty, who cleared the roads and guarded against plundering all the way. In the middle were carriages carrying royal members, ministers, and grain and wealth, stretching for dozens of miles. Finally, there were ordinary people living Bodu, where they had lived for generations with reluctance. The journey was not peaceful. One tribe, Lan Yi, which is the most powerful rebellious tribe, heard that Shang Dynasty was on their way to the new capital. They sent troops to intercept it halfway. Zhongding was very brave. He had already anticipated this and led his men to counter, and the two sides engaged in a fierce battle in the wild. The Shang army, relying on their exquisite bronze weapons and tight formations, defeated the rebels and beheaded their leader on the spot. This victory not only ensured the smooth progress of the capital relocation, but also intimidated other tribes that were eager to make a move. After the new capital, Xiaoyi, was established, it indeed played a huge role as Zhongding had expected. He quickly organized an army and launched several campaigns against those remote tribes. Every time he was able to dispatch troops promptly and defeat the enemy completely. Meanwhile, the new fields around Xiaoyi were cultivated, the grain output increased significantly, and the population of the capital grew larger and larger, gradually becoming the new political, military, and economic center of Shang Dynasty. But Xiaoyi also had fatal flaws. It was too close to the tributaries of the Yellow River and was threatened by floods every rainy season. Moreover, as cities grew larger and larger, a large number of forests around them were being cut down for building houses. Soil erosion was becoming serious, and the land was once again becoming poor and barren. In the late years of Zhongding's reign, floods repeatedly engulfed villages outside the capital city, and food shortages once again emerged. A new crisis was quietly brewing. After Zhongding's death, Shang Dynasty was plunged into an internal strife that lasted for several decades. The royal members fought and killed each other for the throne, causing chaos in the government. The tribes on the border took the opportunity to expand their territories. The power of Shang Dynasty weakened day by day. Finally, He Danjia, the younger brother of Zhongding, ascended the throne amid chaos. What he took over was a mess. Capital Xiaoyi, due to years of floods and barren land, was no longer able to support its huge population. There were numerous factions within the royal family. The great houses did not follow his orders either. External enemies are pressing on, and urgent documents from the frontier are being sent to the capital like snowflakes. Oh man, that was exhausting. He Danjia was well aware that to save Shang Dynasty, it was necessary to move the capital again. Staying in Xiaoyi would only lead to destruction. He sent envoys to investigate everywhere, and finally chose Xiangyi as the new capital. This place was located in the alluvial plain north of Yellow River. The terrain was relatively high, and it was not threatened by floods. Moreover, the land was fertile, and there were large areas of uncultivated land. Most importantly, it was far from the sphere of influence of the old noble families, which was convenient for him to rebuild the ruling order. This relocation was even more difficult than the last one. Due to the decline of national strength, the number of laborers and troops decreased significantly, and along the way, they also had to be on guard against attacks from the rebels. In order to sustain the morale, He Danjia personally charged forward every time when they faced the attack. After more than half a year of arduous trekking, the team finally arrived at the destination. This time, the construction of new capital, Xiangyi, was more pragmatic. Unlike Zhongding, He Danjia did not build a grand city wall. Instead, he dug a deep and wide moat outside the city, which not only saved human and material resources, but also effectively defended against the enemy. The layout within the city had also become more reasonable. The palace area, the civilian area, and the workshop area were divided in an orderly manner. Special granaries had also been built to store grain for unexpected needs. For He Danjia, he put ministers loyal to him in important positions. Together, they cracked down the old noble forces and strengthened power. At the same time, He Danjia actively developed agriculture and encouraged the people to reclaim the wasteland. The grain output soon recovered. Militarily, He Danjia concentrated his forces on attacking the rebels in the north, achieving many victories and pushing the border line northward. He also formed an alliance with the tribe Qiang in the west to secure the western border. Xiangyi gradually flourished and the national strength of Shang Dynasty was slowly restored. But He Danjia knew that this was only a stopgap measure. For Shang Dynasty to truly stabilize, it still needed a more ideal and long-lasting capital. What he didn't expect was that this mission would have to be accomplished by Pan Geng several generations later. The two relocations during the reigns of Zhongding and He Danjia were only a few decades apart, and behind them were the struggles and perseverance of Shang Dynasty in the chaotic times. For Zhongding, moving the capital was to expand the territory and resist foreign enemies, a strategic choice made in a prosperous era. For He Danjia, moving the capital was a reluctant move to get out of the crisis and restore the country's stability in a chaotic era. These two relocations both shifted the ruling center of Shang Dynasty from the south of the Yellow River to north of it. Each migration was accompanied by bloodshed, sacrifice, and hardship, but after each migration, Shang Dynasty was able to gain new vitality. And guys, please don't forget, this was not the end. Generations later, when Pan Geng moved the capital to Yinyi, the glory of Shang Dynasty began to shine. Thank you for watching, and I hope you guys like it. See you next time.